Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Schoolstone. We are your weekend afternoon show. I am one of your hosts, Lotus Knight, bringing you some of the most exciting, I think, Octathlon matches. I'm joined by Markshire today as a special Schoolstone guest. Markshire, how are you?
Lotus, I am doing great. It's good to be here and good to see the lineup that we have, which is two classic matches. Been a while since we've seen these kind of decks, since 2014, 2015. I think some interesting choices for all the players that we're going to see today in terms of their lineup. So really looking forward to seeing that and kind of take a trip back to something that only some of the players playing Hearthstone today know about.
Yeah, I think this is going to be quite a trip around memory lane because these are some decks. Honestly, I came into Hearthstone after some of these, so it's going to be really
Mm.
nice to see them in action in a very high level combat.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I have been playing Hearthstone since essentially the game came out, but for the first year or so, when Classic was around, I was really only playing very casually and really did not know much about the competitive scene. I think, I maybe could barely put together enough dust to make a face hunter deck. But this is kind of just in the age where I was starting to become aware of the competitive scene, but wasn't really quite there yet. It'll be really interesting to see.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it will. And I know you have been playing quite a bit of Classic, so you're going to be able to say a lot about what we're a lot of the decks that we're going to see here. So our first match is going to be Geranium Battle versus Samter. So we'll zoom into this match. We have Geranium Battle with the Druid, Hunter, Rogue, and Shaman versus Samter's Hunter, Mage, Warlock, and Warrior. Now, you may be thinking that some of these decks are the ones you expect, like Handlock or Freeze Mage, but this is a bit of a different one. Um, let's take a quick look at these decks. So, Samter is actually bringing the mid range Hunter, a Tempo Mage, a Zoo Warlock, and the Aggro Warrior versus Geranium Battle's mid-range Druid or combo Druid, mid-range Hunter, Miracle Rogue, and whatever this shaman is. I don't even know how to describe it. Tell me a little bit about these decks.
Sure. Yeah, definitely, Lotus. So, yeah, all these decks, I would say that I do recognize them as archetypes, but these weren't always the most popular decks in, those early stages of Hearthstone, at least as far as I can remember. This shaman though is a pretty standard mid-range shaman. Mid-range shaman was one of those decks. Shaman was always kind of one of the least played classes, and really the only archetype that was popular was this mid-range shaman. And it does actually do fairly well against other decks that rely on the board. I think in particular it actually had a favored matchup against zoos. Because it has some, pretty good early game. If you can get some early game minions or totems to stick, you could take advantage of that with Flame Tongue. And then you also have a pretty efficient clear in Lightning Storm. I think overall fairly solid deck. Not one of the most popular picks as we look at the rest of the field, but overall fairly strong. The one thing I think is the most interesting is definitely seeing this aggro warrior from Samter, and also the tempo mage. Those were decks that I think definitely weren't quite as popular, and tempo mage in particular can do well. I think overall, if you're bringing mage, freeze mage is just overall the stronger option. But I mean, this deck itself still has some strong over the top power. We've got the double Ice Lance with double Frostbolt and double Fireball, and Archmage Antonitis and Pyroblast. Doesn't have quite as much draw or freeze effects
Mm-hmm.
as the freeze mage does, but definitely has, just the raw power in terms of face damage that it can deal. So the deck can definitely get there.
Right. I think so. I mean, it has so many of the cards that make Tempo Mage a good deck. Just Sorcerer's Apprentice. Ever since Hearthstone was
Hmm.
created, that card can just win the game sometimes. Same for Mana Worm. I
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, yep, unnerfed mana worm. It's a 1 mana 1/3. That card can get out of control very quickly. And back here in
right.
Classic, there are much fewer options for early game removal or just for removal in general. So definitely, yeah, like you said, that combo mana worm, sorcerer's apprentice. Those are some really key cards that Samter will be looking for in that deck.
Yep. Yeah, I think so. And I think there's some interesting ones for me to see here. I think something to compare is just the hunter lists, because both lists differ by one card. One is
Hmm.
bringing Scavenging Hyena versus the other one going for the Freezing Trap.
Yeah, no, and they're very close, and I think it is interesting to see how these deck lists are so close, in the absence of, of course, back in 2014, Vicious Syndicate did not exist, HS Replay did not exist, so people would pass lists around, people would post them, on various websites, probably on Facebook. I actually don't. I think Discord was invented in like 2015 or something. So I don't even know if, if Discord existed back then. But overall, yeah, we can see these are very similar decks. And Midrange Hunter is one of those strong archetypes that was, up there for tier one or tier two for, most of Hearthstone's early existence. So not at all surprised to see these two players opting for this here.
Sure. So we do have their bans, which I think is pretty important here.
Mm,
Samter had his Warlock banned, so we are not going to see that zoo in play.
mm-hmm.
And the Turia Beast had their Druid banned.
Mm, okay.
So,
Yeah, makes sense. I think from the stats that I've been seeing that existed, Druid is up there. Just the class overall is number one in terms of win rate, and combo Druid is just a very very strong, well-rounded deck. So not surprised to see that ban.
right. So I'll give the players the go signal, since it seems like
Sounds
they're
good.
good to go. I always like to ask this question to people who are casting with me. Do you believe that the queue order matters, and what would you queue first in each of these players' shoes?
That is a yeah, that's that's a big question. I'm of the belief that in Conquest it really doesn't matter that much. Maybe in THL when individual games do matter, there's a little bit more of a strategy to it. But in this case, this is just a tournament where player who gets 3 wins moves on to the next round. Player who doesn't is out. I think you can pretty much just random queue, personally, but I know there's people who disagree.
Sure. I think to me a big argument, not in THL, I think in THL it's different, but in tournaments, I like to start with whatever I'm confident with, just to get a
Mm.
little bit of a boost of confidence for the other matches, because I like feeling
Makes
good about my
sense.
decks.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Momentum is something that's important. Maybe statistically you can say it doesn't matter, but absolutely, if you can get some kind of psychological edge over your opponent playing from ahead versus playing from behind, makes a lot of sense.
Right. The only scary thing is when you start and then your opponent starts to reverse sweep you is such a scary feeling.
Oh yeah, it's the worst. So these players are into the match, and it looks like we are gonna see that mid-range hunter mirror that we talked about earlier. And like you said, Lotus, these two decks only differing by one card, the double freezing trap for Nectaria Beast, and then for Samter, the double scavenging hyena, I believe.
Right. They're just such similar lists. One of them did hit a one drop though. Is that enough to make a difference in this matchup?
Yeah, often in these situations, the hunter that is going first is favored because,
Right.
with the hero power and with the burst, hunter is so aggressive. So getting that early game is important. But we see here Samter on the coin has the one drop. Stone Tusk Boar, I feel like just being a 1/1 is maybe not huge enough to make a difference. So I would probably say Nixuria Beast is still favored from this position.
Yeah, there was this effect, and it was really evident with Highlander Hunter. But in Hunter Mirrors,
Mm,
it's just
yeah.
so important because every single one of your card tries to catch up on tempo, or not catch up. Sorry, tries to get more tempo. So going first is just so important.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think we're seeing this here, even though, Nixuria missing that one drop, but having a nice 2 mana, 2/3 into the Eagle Horn Bow. And now Samter rolling the Huffer and being able to go face, but he's still going to be behind on board here.
Right. Yeah, he's going to be behind. If there's that Oasis Snapjaw coming out, that sounds so
Mhm.
weird to say in 2021, but um, as that Oasis Snapjaw comes out, there's it's going to make a difference.
Yeah, and I think Nick Sharia here probably just wants to decide, can he trade this 2/2 in? How much does he value his life total? And it seems like he does going to trade that 2/2 and preserve the charge on his Eagle Horn Bow. I think that's fine. He can recognize he has the advantage on board. He just doesn't want to get bursted down already being at 22 health.
Right. I like that. I personally would have done the same thing because I think you really don't want to take too much damage early on if you can avoid it. Um, the board having a 2/2 isn't that important on board at this point.
Um, and yeah, now we see the dueling snapjaws on board. This is a card that you haven't seen it in play for the past several years. But it's surprisingly strong in this deck, just being a body with a lot of health with the beast tag. In classic, there is not a lot of hard removal. There are much less options. So this Oasis Snapjaw often can stick. And if the opponent has, a kill command or a hound master, it combos very well.
Yeah. We are going to see that flare though. This is such a
The
major flare.
flare, yeah, this is really huge because Samter had no other way to deal with that freezing trap well. But just getting rid of it, now he, I guess, just has to choose if he wants to actually deal with this Misha or not with kill command.
He could also just Hunter's Market.
Hunter, yeah, I kind of like the Hunter's Mark honestly, and then you could even coin out the tiger or maybe coin eagle horn bow plus freezing trap.
Yeah.
But he's gonna choose not to.
Yeah. One thing that modern Hearthstone players will now remember is that Eaglehorn Bow at this point procs with your opponent's secrets as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, that's something that it's easy to forget because Eagle Horn Bow is a card that has throughout Hearthstone's history remained played in a lot of hunter decks. It's been present in almost every meta, and it has worked that it only procs on your secrets for most of the time, but that it does kind of add in another twist and makes it especially relevant in these hunter mirrors where when both players are playing secrets.
Right. Um so here you can just Hunter's Mark that Snapjaw and try to return the Savannah Highmane to hand. That would be a way to win if you can get 6 mana basically out of your opponent's hand. That's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, not bad at all. And this freezing trap is huge against the high main here. I think it might just prevent it from attacking altogether because Nixuria really does not want to take that loss of just putting an 8 mana high main back into his hand.
Yeah. Um.
And here, Nixuria, I wonder if maybe they want to just lead with the tracking here because I think you feel pretty bad about trying to attack with this high main. Um, Maybe you just play the Stranglethorn and wait. Not really sure here.
Mm, yeah. I think you do. I think you have to wait. Does attack uh with the high main.
Attack with it, and we see, yep, both Eaglehorn bows getting another charge. And the freezing trap of Nixuria's own getting played, and now Samter, hitting the Oasis Snapjaw into it doesn't feel quite as bad. He can get a fourth charge on his Eaglehorn bow, which I'm not sure if he'll end up needing this game. Or he can just play that second flare. Flare is a card that I think both of these players are running it as two ofs, and it was very good for him earlier in the game too. So maybe just seeing that flare, and then he can play out the Stranglethorn Tiger as well.
I like it. I would just go flare into the tiger unless I drew something better. Um.
And I find it very interesting Samter is holding on to the coin here. I think weaving in hero powers when you can is really important, and just holding on to it here when that could be 2 extra damage, that can often make the difference between winning and losing. And in a situation here, I don't really see what holding on to the coin is going to do for you. You only have two
Yeah.
other cheap cards in hand.
And I think if you weren't going to hero power, you were going to play tracking just to see if you can get something. At this point, you're just looking for burn. You know what you're trying to find. It's a kill command. Or, well, you're not running Leroy, but any kind of burn would be great.
Yep, exactly. And now Samter's in a position, he's very close to lethal here. Tracking actually could give it to him if he got the kill command. Um, I'm a little bit surprised to see this attack first because maybe you get like Houndmaster or something off this tracking.
Right. I
But
really,
Samter's gonna,
I really dislike that trade in that order.
yeah, there was a chance at lethal there.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course he doesn't get it there, but still could have gotten at least 1 extra damage in. And now Nexuria has a chance to go the other way, is only 2 damage off lethal right now with his kill command in hand. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Unleash. Unleash does it, right? I think it's
Unleash
exact.
would be. Now I need to do a math. Yes, Unleash is exact because you have 11 on board with the hero power. Wait, do you have the mana to do it?
Uh,
You do. You have the
yeah,
exact
you
amount.
exactly do. Unleash, kill command face. That's gonna do it for game one.
Yeah. And that is quite the flip there. I don't know. Um, just going first, having that mana advantage helped a lot. Even though your opponent had control the whole time, you could pull the burn trigger first. And with that, Geranium does get a win. So
Yes, and
now,
it appears, has Samter gone offline here for you as well, or is
yeah,
this
for me
just
as
a
well.
bug?
The friends list has been quite a little bit buggy. So we'll check in and make sure everything's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, he's back. So if we're thinking about game two here, what would you be thinking from each side? Let's say in this case, you won your first match with a hunter. What do you want to play next? Do you want to go with your rogue or with your shaman into this lineup?
With the rogue or the shaman, that's a good question. I think that I would probably go with the mid-range shaman instead. I think the rogue can kind of struggle against the mid-range hunter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um. Hmm.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a minute or two as Samter gets back online. So just bear with us here.
Yeah. Think so. I want to ask you, Markshire, since I have you here in this
Sure.
while we're waiting, what have been your favorite decks to play again? I know a few old friends have come back, so what have you been enjoying the most?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me it might be Freeze Mage, which is kind of funny because I actually could not afford Freeze Mage in this iteration. You know, the Freeze Mage with Ice Lances. I only started playing the archetype in it was when Arcanologist came out. I forget what meta
Mm-hmm.
that was,
That was
but
Ungoro.
Angoro, right? But I really enjoyed the archetype there, and now going back to it, you know, it plays very similarly. There's a couple cards that are different, but I really like just playing, you know, a really draw heavy deck that has the burst to kill its opponent, and of course Ice Block. Very frustrating to play against, but very very nice just to know that you can set up 2-turn lethals, and the only counterplay that exists in Classic is Flare from Hunter. So if you're not playing against a Hunter, you are completely safe. There's no Kazan Mystic. There's no Eater of Secrets. So playing with that is really fun.
Right. Hmm. That sounds like a lot of fun. I mean,
Yeah.
though I didn't play too much classic, the one deck I played was Combo Druid, and that was a lot of fun.
Mm,
Turn one Innervate Yeti feels so good. Um,
I did that one today myself. Yeah, Combo Druid is also up there for me as well. It's a very powerful deck.
yeah, and it has fun plays. It's not my favorite deck in all of Hearthstone, but I don't think that deck is coming back until Ungoro. But it's a really good deck to play. Although Priest and Paladin are both they're both basically non-classes. In this match we have the 7 classic classes represented, from what I understand.
Hmm. In the wait, sorry, in the decks that were submitted overall, or
I think both in like the meta. There's Paladin
hmm.
in the meta, but Priest is in a very bad
Well,
state.
yeah, Priest is oh man, yeah, I just not a good time to be a Priest main.
No,
Um
no.
no, yeah, I haven't someone did, I think Disco did a breakdown of everything that was brought for this tournament.
Mhm.
And I don't remember exactly what was there. I believe we didn't see Priest represented, but I could be wrong. And then Paladin as well is it's just not a lot of options. You can go with kind of a mid-range list that works out okay, but
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can say out of the matches that happened so far, which aren't that many, there have been 0 paladin and 0 priest matches.
Yeah.
And only one warrior and one mage, both of which won, to be fair. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah, just
it's true.
not a lot of priest and paladin right now. And I think they're coming back now.
Yes, yeah, we're all set, and they have queued up their next game. So we
Awesome.
are now. Yep, yeah.
Yeah,
Might take a second for the viewers to see, but we've got Samter on Mage against Nixuria on Shaman.
the client list bugged a bit for me, but
Ah,
yeah,
yeah.
we are going to see mage against shaman, so the battle for the elements here.
Absolutely, Lotus. And yes, Samter is already looking to have a pretty strong hand. Has the Leper Gnome into the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Nixaria,
Mm-hmm.
on the other hand, the Chillwind Yeti, I don't remember how common that was in mid-range Shaman. Maybe it was. But other than that, has the Flame Tongue, but not a lot to do in the early game. And this is where we see Shaman is kind of reliant on its totems, and the RNG of totem rules I think was even more important back then than it is now. So I think we are just going to see this totem from Naturia here. That's kind of one of the only ways that Shaman can get the early game pressure if it does not uh, draw any of its one drops.
Right. That is the totem you would want. I kind of want to see that apprentice mirror image. I know it's not happening, but I really wanted to see that play because that would be so hard for your opponent to clear.
Mm,
At least with their current hand, they could lightning storm if they drew that.
yeah, that's true. We do see the 3 mana hex come into hand. I think that nerf was a while back as well. Almost forgot that hex used to be 3 mana.
Yeah,
But here, yeah, here I think Harvest Golem is fine to just play out, contests this Leopard Gnome nicely.
yeah, it's a just a good minion to contest it, and having a 2/3 really helps. But we are going to see that Frostbolt just
Yeah,
really strong here. Just a good card.
it's a nice clear. Um, and I think Samter probably does want to just take this trade in, but then also play Mirror Image here to protect this Sorcerer's Apprentice. We can see
Right.
that Nixuria does have ways to deal with it with the Lightning Bolt in hand, but that's pretty much it. Honestly, a little bit surprised to see him not trade into the 2/1. Guess wanting to get some more face damage in before the Leper Gnome dies.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what I would think they're trying to do. The only problem here is we're going to have a player really overloaded, but with a board. And Feral Spirit was a
Yeah,
pretty good card before. Now it has one less
yeah.
overload and it's still not played, but
Yeah, but no, definitely strong in the classic meta, and we can see here that Naturia really getting this board going. Samter's gonna have to answer with the water elemental here, kind of really the only thing he can do, I think. But it gets a 3/6 body on board, which should contest these wolves fairly well.
yeah, the only problem from where I'm seeing is they have 3 mana crystals overloaded, which means they have the perfect moment to play that Flame Tongue.
Flame Tongue. Yeah, 2 mana Flame Tongue here. And really the story of this mid-range Shaman deck is just the question is, can it get the board in the early game? And if it can leverage that really well with cards like Flame Tongue, Bloodlust, if that's in the deck. But it really struggles to play from behind if it can't get the board at all. But this is looking pretty good for Nixuria here. And I think we kind of see a little bit of a punish for Samter not trading into the 2/1 damaged golem earlier, because that
We
can
do.
can be very strong with Flame Tongue.
Yeah, I had not realized how much this deck can snowball, and that Flame
Yeah.
Tongue now is just meaning 8 damage to face.
Exactly. Yeah, Nixeria, I think he may want to just drop the Flame Tongue full clear the board, because he does have some good trades into this Water Elemental, but he could also just choose to push face damage, and the Flame Tongue is protected by 2 taunts, as it would stand.
Yeah, I personally would go face because I like going face a lot. Um,
That's understandable.
yeah, usually if I can go face, I think it tends to be the right answer. Um,
Mm.
I think it is paying off quite well because yeah, they have a 4/3. They can trade their 3/6 into their 4/3, but then what?
Yeah, and even pinging is not that good. Samter really wants to ping off this other Spirit Wolf, but the 2/1 is just gonna, slide in right there again and be a
Yeah.
4/1 itself. So I think he might just have to go for the Drake instead, see what he gets.
Mhm. Yeah, if he can draw missiles out of that Drake, that would be really good. Opts to do the other play and get a Mana Worm down. Mana Worm was still broken at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, just playing it out here I think is probably fine. And Nixeria now can kind of choose between a lot of different options. His hand is actually it's very reactive. Both
Yeah.
hexes and Earthshock. Only one minion in hand. So I think he has to be pretty careful about, how he navigates this because he really wants to prioritize getting minions on board and probably trying to get a lot of value out of his hero power while he can.
Yeah, if he chooses to hero power here, he would probably need to go with a Hex and Earthshock, which would clear everything. The alternative being the Yeti.
Yeah, I'm wondering here because I mean he could even totem and go rockbiter maybe, and plus trading the 4/1. Uh, kind of an awkward. He's kind of 1 mana short of having a really good turn. I think here.
Yes. Oh yeah. He goes for the tempo and just dropping this 4/5. Um,
Okay, I'm not sure if I like leaving the mana worm up here, but if there's no answer for this Yeti, this could work out very well.
well, I don't think there's an answer to the Yeti, but there's definitely an answer to the Mana Worm or to the Flame Tongue. You could just go
Yeah.
coin Azure Drake hero power.
Yeah, no, you're completely right, and I do like that. This flame tongue is so strong, and having this cleared off with the Drake coin hero power play, really does put a dent in what Nixuria can do, how powerful his hero power is. So I imagine that we will see that from Samter here.
Yeah. Or you could take the 50/50, which is quite good if you win.
This is
I don't like this play.
That's not the play that I would have gone for. I'll tell you that, Lotus. But this keeps the coin in hand for a potential Antonitis next turn, which is somewhat relevant.
I guess. It is a play, but it sounds like it just doesn't sound like enough to me. Get anything done.
It
Um,
seems if yeah, I would say if that's the reasoning that Samter is going for, it does seem a little bit on the greedy side. Because now Samter still hasn't dealt with that flame tongue, is still taking a lot of damage. I mean, this flame tongue has just accumulated to deal so much damage to his face, and he's still on the back foot here.
right.
Antonitis seems like a little bit too late. I mean, if you Antonitis coin, you can't even deal with any of these minions.
No, the best case you're getting a fireball to your hand and then you pass. That's kind of it. They're going to hex you. They're going to Defender of
Yep.
Argus. They basically can do whatever they want.
Exactly. Yeah, so Samter, I mean, I think maybe debating between that or just going for Azure Drake does go with the Azure Drake here. And the Arcane Intellect means he can coin Arcane Intellect and deal with this Flame Tongue.
Or ping. Why ping?
Ping, yeah, uh, it does seem worse than just going for Arcane Intellect. You get the damage. I mean, you can kill the Flame Tongue either way, but having 2 more cards in hand seems better than not having those cards.
Right. Um, I think something that Samter has been lacking this game is just to think about mana efficiency. And in Schoolstone, we do try to tell players what we think they're not seeing, or if there's something that we think they can improve. And at least in
Hmm.
my view, I think Samter is not really thinking about how to play the mana he has.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. It's nice to have the educational aspect of this as well. Um, but yeah, and now I mean Nightshade is I think really seeing that he can look to end the game very soon. Just going for the defender, not even dealing with anything on board. I actually don't know if I like that. I don't know off the top of my head if Flame Strike is in this list. I actually think it is. But with the Azure
Um,
Drake on board, a top deck Flame Strike could be huge there. It potentially would have been a full board clear.
yeah. There is no
Um,
Flame Strike though.
we don't see it. We don't see it. There's one in the deck. Uh, at this point, Samter cannot Arcane Intellect into it, but he can play the AI anyways, see what he picks up. I think he can stay technically alive on board with either the Fireball or the Polymorph, but we can see that Nixuria has that Rockbiter in hand.
Yeah. Plus the deck
And oh no,
has.
he's oh no, sorry, yeah, never mind, he is still dead on board. Sorry, go
Uh,
ahead.
yeah, he's pretty much dead. Plus the Shaman deck runs a lot of burn, just cards that will kill you if drawn. And with that, we do see the fall of the mage to the shaman.
Yeah. And now Nixuria only needs to get a win with his Miracle Rogue. But to be honest with you, Lotus, I'm looking at the decks. Samter has brought a very aggressive lineup here, which has historically been Miracle Rogue's weakness. So, it's possible that we could see a reverse sweep,
Yeah.
depending on how these next games go.
Yeah, I was going to say it is Miracle Rogue, and he is playing Edwin Van Cleef, which one out of every X games Edwin just wins early because he's Edwin. We've all been there. We were there for a whole meta.
Yeah, Edwin, I'll say Edwin, very strong card. Not quite as good in Classic as I think it has been in some more recent decks. With cards like Foxy Fraud, some of the other, back when Tomb Pillager was a card and you could get additional counterfeit coins, there was a lot more potential, I feel, for really
Hmm.
big Edwins. But there's still the potential here for sure. But I mean, some of the really nutty things you see with like Shadow Stepping Foxies getting, 12, 12,
Right.
14, 14 on Edwins. Often in this deck, Edwin just comes out early, maybe as just, 4/4, a 6/6, just contest the board early. But the blowout potential is always there.
Yeah. Um. Well, this is what Mage really likes to do. Mage is always looking to get
Hmm.
Mana Worm out on one.
Yes. Yeah, Mana Worm on one is huge. Very nice start, and no immediate answer seen in Nixuria's hand. And we could even see, I think I'd like to see the mirror image here. Protects it
Yeah,
from maybe backstab hero power.
I think I agreed with that. The Frostbolt is fine. It is an improvement in playing on curve, so um,
it does use all of his mana.
Yeah.
Um, that's true. However, yeah, the downside is then that Frostball can't be used to deal with maybe an Earthen Ring or an SI and protect the Mana Worm even further. And you don't really want to Mirror Image and ping on 3. You really want to be playing that Arcane Intellect. So we'll see what Nixuria opts to do here.
Coins aside, this Mana Worm is so good tempo-wise. It's just
Yeah.
can AI and just say, okay, I'm removing your 3/3 with my Mana Worm, or you can just mirror image and don't do anything.
I like the juggler play here. We saw, Nixuria. I think we can be confident, or Samter can be confident that he does not have a backstab in hand. So I
Right.
think Samter is taking advantage of this, saying, "Okay, I'm just gonna play juggler. I'm gonna image, and I'm gonna go face, and force you to have an answer."
Yeah. This is a pretty good answer though. And
This is a very nice answer.
Samter doesn't have a hand right now.
No, yeah, the shadow step there, very nice pickup here, and Samter playing off the top of his deck, but water elemental probably the best draw that he had there.
Yeah. So we could just see a Thalnos and backstab of this. That clears the 3/6, gives you the board. Or you
Yeah,
don't even need to Thalnos. Good hero power if you.
yeah, no, backstab of this on its own clears the water elemental. I think playing Thalnos though is fine, even though you don't need the spell damage. You kind of do want the card from Thalnos here. Nexuria's hand, no gadgets in, no auctioneer. I think he really does want to get some more cards in hand soon. So I like playing it like this.
Right. This is a pretty good kill. Samter is going to need to take a slow turn with AI unless he draws an Azure Drake.
Hmm.
I don't think you care about Poly here.
No, no good poly targets. Just going for the AI, and I think just picking off this Thalnos.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, and there's the gadget, right on time for Nixuria Beast.
we can see gadget prep conceal would be really good. Just make sure
Yep.
next turn you can blow out as much as you want with nothing happening.
And Samter, the only way he has to deal with this in his deck is Flame Strike, and even if he had it, he'd be 1 mana away. So here,
Yeah.
really nothing to do.
Is this going to be a sweep by Naturia Beast?
Is still, I mean, it's looking that way. To be honest with you, Lotus, just nothing much to do in this situation. I don't even know if you want to play the mirror image and just give your opponent targets for the spells they're inevitably going to play next turn.
Right.
And of course, missiles doesn't do anything. Even you can't kill the gadgets in.
Nope.
There's a very very small chance it kills the SI, but it doesn't even feel worth it, even if you were to get that lucky. So just pinging
Yeah.
and passing the turn.
And you can backstab your own minion. You're totally fine doing that as a rogue, especially because you can shadow step it as
Absolutely.
well.
Yeah, definitely. I think not an issue at all. But Nick Sharia maybe doesn't need to do that yet. Has a lot of other cheap spells. So going for the deadlies, the Sinister Strike, not something you see in every Miracle Rogue list, but just another cheap spell, some more face damage. Nick Sharia is gonna push a lot to
Yeah.
face.
That mage is almost dead. If he flame strikes,
Oh, the Flame Strike off the top. Yeah.
but that means he's dead. Dead to
Oh,
Shiv
he's
SI
dead
or
to the
Leroy.
Leroy.
Shiv
The
SI was
Leroy
enough.
off the top. Shiv SI, you're right, you're right. Shiv SI was enough anyways, but still.
Yeah.
Leroy Jenkins coming in, and that is going to be a sweep, Lotus.
Wow. That was a match. Um, that was quite amazing.
Yeah, really showcasing the power of the Miracle Rogue deck. Doesn't always have You don't always get gadgets in prep conceal on turn 5, but when you do, the game tends to end pretty quickly, as we saw here.
Yeah. And right now, we're going to ask the Churia Beast or Geranium Battle if they want to come for an interview.
Sounds good.
I'll add them. Okay. And I'm adding them here right now. Hey, Geranium, congratulations in your match.
Thank you very much.
That was it was shorter than I thought, but a really interesting match. How did you feel?
Man, I was as soon as I got my shaman through, I was feeling pretty good. Shaman doesn't do that well against anything, but I love it, so I'm
Sure.
bringing it. But man, Samter definitely played very well. I just think the draws probably weren't on his side. Um, Man, though, that that first Hunter game was down to the wire.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was super close. That's just, I mean, those mid-range hunter matchups. It's kind of a situation where you have to be counting your damage every turn, seeing if there's an opportunity to kill your opponent one turn later. And Samter was, I think, one depending on what he got off tracking, he could have killed you one more turn, or you did. But yeah, ended up getting there in the end. Super close game for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um
I was I was really happy to get exact mana, exact lethal there.
Very nice. Yeah, I think there were. Yeah, there might have been a couple ways you could have gotten lethal, but yeah, really really nice to get the unleash there and close it out.
mhm. So, I want to ask you a little bit about that shaman. How does it feel to play shaman back in classic? I know shaman wasn't really a huge class until Tunnel Trog happened.
Yeah, I mean, back in Classic, it's really just Doom Hammer and win. You play your
Mm-hmm.
Doom Hammer, you smack the opponent around, and then they explode. So I
Sure.
really like just Wind Fury and just Rock Biter weapon. And the other part that I really like about Shaman is just there's so many taunts that the hyper aggressive decks have a tougher time against it. So I was looking forward to maybe facing that warrior and stopping the charge rabid worgen.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this list, and I did not notice the wild pyromancer before. Is that just in there? You're thinking about maybe anti-zoo, anti-aggro tech.
Yeah, if I need to ban a very specific matchup, then I still have that wild pyromancer there for Zoo. I know that I banned Zoo this
Mm-hmm.
time,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah,
but certainly like I'm not gonna. I hopefully don't have to ban Zoo every single matchup.
sure.
Right.
And that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I really think Flame Tongue Totem is kind of the MVP of the deck. I think we saw that in your match, getting that down early, and because the mage didn't have the answer, you were able to push so much damage with it. Such a strong card in 2 mana, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it turns out if you just play around their Flame Strike and they don't draw it, then you can't get Flame Strike.
Exactly.
Mhm. Yeah. Um so Marchard,
Uh,
do you have any questions you would like to ask?
I do not have anything else. No, just want to say, yeah, congrats on the win. Yeah, really nice to get back in there and cast some of these classic games. So thanks for coming on.
it was great. And by the way, Lotus Knight, quick call out.
Sure.
You're lucky that I lost my game on stream yesterday.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have fought you in bracket.
That is true. I mean, I'm playing my match that was supposed to be with you. tomorrow on stream as well during Saku's stream at night. Um, but yeah. One question I have just for fun here. I want to ask Geranium if what do you expect to be the first classic nerf, if any classic nerfs are going to happen?
Oh wow, classic nerfs. Um, I think that the probably the most uninteractable card is the card Charge, but I don't think that's going to get nerfed because the deck isn't seeing that much play. Honestly, I think no nerfs are going to happen. I think that they're going to keep it an evergreen set. I think that the best decks are going to stay the best decks.
Okay. So kind of just become a static mode. Interesting. Sure. And do you have any final shout outs to your teammates? Anyone you would like to thank? Anything of that sort?
Oh, I mean, I'd like to thank all the people that are watching from home. I asked a few of my friends to watch the stream,
Mm-hmm.
and they've shown up in droves. So I'm very grateful to them, and otherwise just very grateful that Octathlon's happening and that I get to play some good Hearthstone.
Oh yeah. No, this was some quality Hearthstone. I want to thank you for playing, and as always, for everyone watching, if you would like to play your Octathlon or other matches on stream, you can DM me, DM Saku. We're always looking for matches to be on stream. It's a fun environment for you to play. All skill levels are welcome. Um, with that being said, I believe it is time for us to go to our second match. Thank you one more time, Geranium.
Thank you for having me. Have a nice
Yeah,
day.
thanks for coming on.
Now, our second match marks the return of Slinch from Team Full Dust Value versus Mund from Washu Octobears. So this is going to be a really interesting one because Slimch hasn't played in a while, but used to be a THL legend. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Slimch's history, Markshire, as I'm sure you were present for quite a bit of it.
Absolutely, yeah. So Slimsh is definitely one of, if not the most storied player in THL history. Was player in the introductory Hall of Fame class for what is now known as Legacy Series, but over the years has been known as Ragnaros series, and also was initially just called THL because there was only one series of play. But Slimsh, I think a lot of people may know Slimsh from season 4 when he got a championship with Team Rank 5. Had a very strong record that season, uh, and Slimsh has other championships too in the very early seasons of THL history. But just Slimsh not only being a very strong player, also came on and was involved in the very first Tavern Talk, and was just very involved in casting and content creation and being a show host. Really, when THL was just getting started out, and we didn't nearly have the amount of support that we do for content production that we
Mm-hmm.
have these days. Just a great player, like you said, has taken a break from THL, hasn't played in a while, but came back because of Classic. So I'm very excited for the opportunity to cast Slimsh. It's been a couple years, but Slimsh is such a strong player. Knows the game super well, very technically proficient, and looking forward to seeing some of that in this game.
Yeah, yeah, and we have interesting lineup choices. We do know the bands, but I'm going to save that for after we see what the lineups are. Slinch brought the probably what will be considered some of the main decks in Classic right now with the Combo Druid, the Freeze Mage, the Miracle Rogue, and Handlock versus Enthralamun's aggro lineup with Face Hunter, Miracle, or not Miracle, sorry, Aggro Rogue, Zoo Warlock, and some sort of aggro warrior. Tell me a
Yeah,
little bit about those decks.
Definitely, yeah. So Slimsh, I think, the combo Druid, Freeze Mage, Miracle Rogue, and Handlock, right? These are all very strong, tier one, tier two decks. Exactly what you would expect out of a classic lineup. Whereas Mund, on the other hand, the Zoolock and the Face Hunter are fairly standard. The Aggro Rogue, that's a deck that did exist in the past. I think it's particularly good against Miracle Rogue, but Miracle was much more popular, so kind of interesting to see that and to see I think in there is poor man's Warglaves of Azeroth. We've got the 5 mana Assassin's Blade,
Mm-hmm.
and then also the I think I'd call it aggro warrior, but to be honest with you, I don't remember ever seeing an archetype like this exactly. I get well, no, that's not true. This aggressive warrior did occasionally see some play, but not super often. I mean, it's got Nightblade in the deck. That's you're just kind of forced to put that in your deck because there aren't a ton of options for direct damage other than it. But that could end up doing pretty well against Slimsh's lineup, to be honest. Slimsh has some slower decks here, some decks that can be very susceptible to aggression. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out against what Mund has.
Yeah. Um, I think so. We do know their bans. Mun's most aggressive deck, his Face Hunter, was banned, while Slimch's Handlock was banned. So we're going to see, can the Freeze Mage, the Miracle Rogue, and the Combo Druid get away from an aggro lineup?
Yep, absolutely. I think the bans make sense. Face Hunter, kind of the most aggressive uh, of the list, so understandable that that would get banned. And of course, Handlock on the other side. If you try to be really aggressive against it early, and then they drop those Molten Giants and taunt them up, that can be very difficult for an aggro deck to get through.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and I did just give them the go ahead here to
awesome.
choose, so I think we will be able to get into it.
Yeah, um, we can start. Just as a note, and this I was confused by this, and so was Markshire.
Hmm.
Mund is not Enthrallment. They're two different
Right.
THL players.
Yeah, and off the top of my head, I do not even know. Do you know what Octathlon team Mund is on?
Mund is on the
Might
Washu
be a new player.
Octobears, so I assume he's a
Oh,
player from
I see.
Washu.
Must be. That would make sense. Yeah, a lot of very strong players from WashU. So nice to see that they were able to put a team together.
Yeah, yeah. Washu, they've dominated Hero for or Pro for a season and lost right at the
Hmm.
end. And
Yeah,
yeah, that happened a little while ago. I don't know. Were you on a show when that happened?
yeah. That was. I think that was 2 seasons ago. I want to say, or I could be wrong. Maybe it was 3 seasons ago. But yeah, they had a just excellent regular season. We're beating everyone, and then I think
Yeah,
just kind of a situation where it's really hard to maintain that kind of success, and especially as it gets towards the end of the meta, it can be difficult to not feel burned out. So they were not able to follow through to the championship in that series, but yeah, very good team.
yeah. We are seeing Thrallman start, so as soon as Hearthstone lets us get there, we're going to watch them.
Yep. And I can see here Slimsh has gone with the Freeze Mage to lead off against Mun's Aggro Warrior. And this is a matchup where, I'll have to say that the Warrior is favored. There's just so much direct damage. The Freeze Mage, has Ice Block, has Ice Barrier, but in generally does struggle against these decks. But Slimsh already having the mirror images, that is going to prevent quite a bit of this early game damage.
Yeah, I think the mirror image. You can go with a novice. You can even play Ice Barrier soon. Those are some strong. That is just a strong start.
Yep. And going with the ping, I like going with the ping here over playing the novice because you do protect your 0-2 taunt, and just cleanly being able to do with the deal with the 2-1.
Right.
So
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, the Fairy Dragon, not a great play at this. Well, it's a good play against Mage just because they can't clear it.
Yeah.
Um, but it is going to be stuck around the 0-2.
Yep, yeah, Mund is, maybe not the explosive start that he was looking for, but still he is getting some early game minions on board and is gonna, look to get some face damage in soon.
Right.
Slimsh on the other hand here, yeah, like you said earlier, this fairy dragon does represent an issue. Can't just be frost bolted off. So now Slimsh, I think, has the decision of does he maybe just ping something? Does he frostbolt the first body of this harvest golem? And it's tough here. This is a situation where freeze mage gets into this very, very often. Is do you use your burn to deal with the board, or do you
Yeah.
save it to kill your opponent later? Um, and Slim's gonna go ahead and use the frostbolt here.
I think this makes sense. A lot of this match, from what I understand, is going to be decided on can you stop their aggression and convert
Mm-hmm.
basically your game plan to a combo plan. A lot of times you'll even use Alex to heal your own face and say, I have an 8-8 now. I've run your
Yeah.
hand out of resources.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, I do like that decision from Slimsh. This is not a game where you're gonna, save up and try to two-turn your opponent with an offensive Alex into, maybe a Frostbolt with Ice Lances. He recognizes that he needs to focus number one on not dying, and using the Frostbolt does help accomplish that.
Right. The Arcane Intellect into the Blizzard. Really good here.
Mm.
Certainly uh, what Slumch was looking for. He trades into the 5-2 with the I'm not sure what that ping was, but that's fine.
That's interesting. So, and we saw an oops emote from Slumsh there. I was thinking, either trading in or pinging the 5-1 to play around, or sorry, to set it up to die to Blizzard next turn
Right.
would make sense, but maybe Slumsh meant to trade into the 2-1 instead. I'm not too sure.
You definitely want to just reduce face damage, and the 2-1 does exactly that. Um, right now, the warrior has 28 damage in his hand.
Those Arcanite Reapers, yeah, and we know there's no weapon tech in Slimsh's deck, so those will be connecting face.
Yeah, your only hope is to ice barrier out of it and then Alex to heal it, which honestly
Yeah,
doesn't sound that hard looking at the hand.
it's very doable. It's interesting because Slimsh does not yet have Ice Block in hand, which I think is so important to be able to,
Yeah.
put up that Ice Block. Your opponent maybe spends their turn trying to deal enough damage to pop it, and then you can come back with a defensive Alexstrasza heal right back up to 15.
Yeah.
But without that here, I think he is gonna struggle as we see the Arcanite Reaper swings already coming in.
Yeah. So that Doomsayer, I don't hate the idea of going Ice Barrier, Doomsayer, Ice Lance. Just freeze the 4-2 actually.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a spot where Slimsh is going to have to start thinking, we saw it with the turn 4 Frostbolt, but even more so now, using some of this burst damage, which Ice Lance can be just as defensive power instead.
Yeah. Basically, it's a worse Ray of Frost. He chooses to freeze the face.
Makes sense. Yeah, prevents 5 damage instead of 4.
Yeah, knowing how
So,
many weapons his opponent has makes a lot of sense. His opponent could opt to just trade, but he would have to lose 2 basically base targets.
yeah, I think. So, yeah, Mund could have gone with the Korkron there. and kill the Doomsayer, which I actually think might have been the play, but having gone face already with a Nightblade, now Mund has to choose, do I play the Korkron just to get 4 damage, or do I hold it and then I can actually have the 4/3 body stick around?
Right. This gives time for Slimch to just draw. He's going to draw at least 3 cards this turn. And that's what the mage really wants to do, is just keep drawing.
Exactly. He is pretty low. He's only at 13. But I think Slimsh can at least say, I don't always lose next turn. He really needs to draw, in my opinion, he really needs to draw uh, into an ice block.
Yeah, he needs an ice block stat. Um,
Going for the Ice Lance again here. I think I would have liked to see the Acolyte ping. In this case, instead, maybe Slimsh is thinking he can Flame Strike away a board from his opponent and then come back with the defensive Alex next turn.
I guess the other option would be just to Nova a board and then play the Acolyte and hope you draw an ice block or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it could work as well. I will say that Mun's hand, drawing all 4 of his weapons, the double War Axe and double Arcanite Reaper so soon, Slimsh is putting a lot of pressure on him by kind of just freezing out all these cards in hand. The Arcanite Reaper and War Axe are just completely dead, while Mun still has that charge left.
Yeah. The issue is at this point, a heroic strike, which I believe he is playing, would be a win even if he freezes the board.
Yeah, no, that's right. The heroic strike with the Korkron would be exact lethal.
There's an ice block for next turn.
There is the ice block. Now, and this is so tough. Does Slimsh go for the Frost Nova here, guaranteeing that he'll prevent 3 face damage, or does he go for the block? Does go for the ice block.
Okay. So his opponent actually cannot kill him. He can't pop the ice block. He can leave him at 1.
Can he even pop the ice block?
No.
He can't pop the ice block.
He can
right?
get him to
Yeah,
1.
huge. Yeah.
But getting him to 1 is exactly what he wants, because that means Alex just goes in.
Exactly. And if Mun does do that, he won't be able to deal with the Acolyte cleanly. And you don't want your opponent to get more cards here. So it's interesting to try to see what will happen.
Chooses
Yeah,
to
I think
not
trading is fine. Yeah, because you can't pop the block anyways.
No. And you know it is block just because of what your opponent has been doing.
Yep. Yeah, and you've already seen both ice barriers, so
yeah,
it's guaranteed.
Playing the Reaper here. Now you can go for a Nova and just freeze your opponent's board, or you can go for a Flame Strike and clear your opponent.
Yeah, this is really tough because if Slimsh wants to, defensive Alex, he can't deal with the board. I don't really think the defensive Alex can be an option.
Not yet, no.
No, not at this point. So is he just looking at? I mean, I wonder if you ever fireball the 7/3. Try to get that off the board, play this Thalnos and Loot Hoarder. I feel like at this point Slim probably needs to prioritize draw, but it's a really awkward situation.
Does go for the clear.
I like this. Clears the board, plus gets the Loot Hoarder on board.
Yeah. Surprisingly,
Mund going to pop.
The Ice Golem is playing a bigger role than it seems, or the Harvest Golem, sorry.
Hmm.
It's really annoying to remove minion, and just getting to hero power is so important.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Lotus. And now Slim Shear goes for the defensive Alex. He's dead to Heroic Strike.
Yeah,
Gonna go for it anyway. I think it's his only play. And
and
that's
yeah,
Heroic Strike off the top. Wow.
wow, strong showing from this warrior, getting the win here.
Um, I think I think we talked about this before the game, Lotus. This freeze mage is often doesn't do too well against the aggressive decks. I think the aggro warrior was definitely favored in that match.
Yeah,
Just due to how the draws came down, it ended up being pretty close towards the end, but able to draw that last bit of damage at the end there, and Mun does pull it out.
yeah. A lot of the question for the warrior, especially for this matchup, becomes can you kill the warrior even if you survive for a while longer than anything else, or a while longer than you would expect? You don't really have enough you can do in the late game.
Yeah, and warrior, also just having armor up as its hero power, that is relevant against
Yeah.
freeze mage when you're both
Oh yeah.
pressuring them, forcing them to spend their burst damage. Sometimes that does come into play.
Yeah. And now we have the Miracle Rogue versus the Aggro Rogue.
Yeah, this will be another case here. Miracle Rogue, a deck that can struggle against some of these aggressive starts. I think Slimsh is looking pretty good here. He does run two Earthen Ring Farseer in his deck, and did keep one of them. So he's going to have some options in the early game to contest what the Aggro
Right.
Rogue does.
Right. It could just see a coin Earthen Ring or just a hero power, honestly.
I think just the hero power, that Gadgetson is a huge pickup, really.
Yeah.
And at this point, Slimsh, if he wants to, can go off as early as turn 4, coining the gadget into
Yeah.
prep Fan of Knives.
That's
And
what
this
I'm
is one of the
thinking.
matchups. Yeah, no, and this is one of the matchups where Fan of Knives is actually relevant. Often the one damage AoE doesn't do much against a lot of decks, but this aggro rogue has a lot of low health minions.
Right. I mean, we can see there with the Loot Hoarder and the Deckhand, these are both minions that
Yeah,
are very easy praise for this fan.
absolutely. And I do like this, just getting the 3/3 on board, getting some
Oh
heal,
yeah.
and Slimsh is really getting a lot of value out of his hero power. And that's one of the strengths of the Miracle Rogue deck that does take some time to get used to. But the 1/2 dagger, I think in Classic especially, can be very powerful, and Slimsh has already having removed 2 minions with it. Just yeah, very nice, nice clean play.
Yeah. I think a big difference from classic to standard is just the strength of the hero powers. Because nowadays the hero power is pretty bad in most cases. This was not as much in old school Hearthstone where the power level was a lot lower.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. I mean, even, looking at some of these other classes like Druid, the one damage ping plus the one armor, that one armor mattered a lot. You don't see, these crazy like skipper armor smith combos, or even cards like Overflow, which, can heal for 5 as well as draw a lot of cards. There were not that many options to heal or gain armor. So I agree. The hero powers are much more impactful in this
Yeah,
meta.
and Slimch is going crazy here, or at least drawing two
Yep.
cards.
Going for the prep fan, and can even shadow step here if he wants to. Gets a guaranteed one more card and gets 3 heal. Honestly, I kind of did like the shadow step on Earthen Ring there, but I guess Slimsh is going to save it. Maybe trying to save it for to kill his opponent with Leroy in a couple turns.
Yeah, if his opponent cannot deal with this Gadgetzan, which we know he can, but doesn't
Mhm.
sound great. Like sapping the gadgets in is, to put it mildly, it's a pretty
Thing it.
mediocre play.
No, these two saps in hand, just neither option is good. You sap gadgets and you give your opponent back, probably the best card in their deck, their draw engine. You sap Earthen Ring, you give your opponent, another way to heal.
Right. But if you play the Arcane Golem, you're giving them ramp.
Yeah, just a free wild growth
Yeah,
for your
and
opponent.
they are at the point in the game where they're pretty happy ramping still, and just one mana can be the difference for Miracle Road.
Yeah. This is a tough spot. It looks like Mund is going to choose to play none of the cards that we talked about. So, his opponent won't get any of the upside of getting another Gadgets in or Earthen Ring or one more mana. But he doesn't really push much damage to face this turn. And just those two saps, I think, are sitting very awkwardly in hand right now.
Yeah. Plus, we see that Shadow Step next turn. I think this turn is probably going to be an Azure Drake turn, but next turn it
Yeah.
could just be a 1 mana heal, or it could be 6 damage. 2 mana
Wow.
deal 6.
The Leroy in hand is huge. Slim saving those Shadow Steps. I mean, if he gets to turn 8, that is 18 damage with
Yeah.
Leroy and double step.
We could see a sap on the Azure Drake, which is possible. I still like at least one step on the Earthen Ring, just to be safe against this very aggressive deck.
Yeah. And I think this sap on the Azure Drake, it feels a lot better sapping the Drake than it does the Gadgetson.
Yes.
So this makes sense.
Oh, yeah. Could be a conceal turn as well.
Yeah, Slim Shear, I'm trying to think if he can set up lethal. If he goes face for 3, puts his opponent to 21, conceals, guaranteeing 7 damage next turn. It would not quite be lethal, right?
No, he could prep conceal after healing 3. That would be
Yes.
7 again, so that would be lethal, yes. Right? Or did I miss?
Would it?
So
So it would
12.
be 7 plus 12, 19, right? So I
Yeah,
think he'd be
no, it would
2
not.
off.
It would be off.
Getting close, though. And actually, wait, I mean, this is. Did Mund here? Or no, sorry. I thought Slim may have healed himself just out of range, but Mund is still a couple off. I think has 13 total damage right now.
Yeah. That's not enough, though. Well, Slimch is, what, 1 Cold Blood or something away? Not that far from winning.
Yeah, with the Azure Drake being sapped, I don't think he has any ways for lethal now. And the Cold Blood coming into hand, yeah, I think it's gonna be 2 damage off again.
So he could. I kind of think that missing the prep conceal there was pretty bad
Mm,
for this match, because you
yeah,
could just have been protected in board.
that's
And
true. Of course, Slimsh didn't know he was gonna draw Cold
no, he did
Blood,
not.
but yeah. And now, I think, are there draws that Mund can have for lethal here?
Leroy.
Doesn't get the Leroy. And I
As
think he's 2 damage off, right?
Yeah, he doesn't have. If he had mana, he could be 2 damage off, but he doesn't even have mana for that.
Oh yeah, he does. You're right. He wouldn't even. Yeah, he can't even go for the full, Arcane Golem step plus SI and Abyss. So yeah, this is just gonna be game then.
Yeah, Lynch is winning with his rogue. Wow.
Miracle Rogue showing its power. Yeah.
Yeah?
I think this game, I think if Mund had maybe gotten a couple more, if the draws had gone slightly differently, Mund had some pretty awkward turns where he just has a handful of minions like Loot Hoarder, which aren't super impactful early, and just the saps, and forcing to spend an Abyss on Gadgetzin too when he did.
Yeah.
Not exactly what you want, but yeah, Slimsh is going to take it here.
Oh, yeah. Just hitting in the face. That's what Rogue does. What Rogue has always done.
Yep.
And that's it. Mun loses his first match, leading to a 1-1.
Absolutely. And yeah, getting that Miracle Rogue out of the way is pretty huge. And now Slimsh will have to get a win with his combo Druid and his Freeze Mage. But I don't know. I think here's some interesting matchups. When we look at what could be queued next, Freeze Mage historically has a strong matchup against Zulok. But the combo Druid, however, historically has done pretty poorly against a board flood deck like Zoo.
Right. Just,
Um,
I mean, you have swipe. You have spell damage swipe.
Spell damage swipe is huge. But aside from that, and I mean, a possible mind control tech, but I don't believe Slimsh is running that.
He is not.
Either way, yeah, oh, yeah, he is not. But he is going to be up against the Rogue instead here, which has quite a bit of face damage, but doesn't quite flood the board to the extent that Zoo does.
Right. That is a full mulligan. Looking for wild growth or ramp or something to do early.
Innervate.
Innervate is quite
Yep.
good.
Honestly, the Innervate Nourish on Slimsh's side, we could be looking at a turn 2 coin Innervate Nourish for mana, which would do pretty nicely with the Ancient of Lore that he has in his hand.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Or
could be
even
quite good.
maybe even waiting until turn 3 to do it. Mund, on the other hand, here has the Assassin's Blade, and no weapon removal from Slump, so I imagine that will do quite a bit of face damage. And I think this is looking, even though it's not super great, it's looking like a little bit of a stronger hand than the one last game. He does have some more options here.
Right. Um, Probably looking next turn for a deckhand Cold Blood, or I don't know that you want to give
Mhm.
Druid mana.
Probably not. Probably, yeah. Arcane Golem is one of those cards where it does feel really bad just playing it out on curve, and you really do only want to play it when you're either setting up lethal or you're just directly killing your opponent.
Right. So you can just nourish here into Azure Drake next turn. That feels really good.
Yeah, I I kind of like that, Lotus. You get nourished out, you use your Innervate and Coin, but having increased mana, this is basically, an overgrowth for the rest of the game.
Pretty
And
much.
yeah, Slim Shit is going to choose to do that.
Yeah, and you can even gain one more armor.
Yeah,
Which, honestly, it's not that bad against this matchup. Armor is important.
absolutely. Could definitely be relevant. And Mund still having a little bit of a slow start here. This deadly poison is nice. He may want to save it until, he can get it down with an Assassin's Blade. That would give him the full value out of it. But after seeing your opponent ramp so much with Nourish, that may end up being too slow.
Yeah. Does want to give his opponent mana. Seems like he's going for the Arcane Golem.
Interesting option.
Okay. Now the question for Slimch is, does he respect this 2-1? enough to the point where he spends a Wrath, or does he just want to drop the Azure Drake? And I think he's just going to go for the Dragon.
Yep. I think so. I think you fall behind on board too much if you don't just play your 5-drop. Next turn, Slimsh can play the Wrath, maybe he can play the Swipe, and if the Azure Drake sticks, which is very possible, he'll get a lot more value out of those spells as well.
Yeah. You could go double minion if you're Mund and just say, I have the board now, but the Druid wouldn't mind that. That would give the Druid quite an advantage.
Yeah, it's tricky to leave up Azure Drake. Just in general, as the game goes on, it becomes more dangerous to leave minions on board
Yes.
when you're playing against Druid because the combo it's always there,
Yeah.
right? Once they get to 9 mana, it's always a possibility that they have 14 from hand, and any single minion that's left up is just +2 damage.
Yeah. And he does give his opponent Wild Growth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Surprised, a little surprised that Cold Blood hasn't been played yet either. But maybe it could have been played with a deckhand, but Mund maybe saving that for an arcane golem later in the game now. This is an interesting spot. That Sen'jin is very appealing. I wonder, does Slimshire just want to maybe Wrath one of these minions for 1 and play this Sen'jin down?
I think he does, yeah. Or the Ancient of Lore is heal, which is quite good, and it's
Yeah.
helping set up for the combo. So I don't think I hate this.
Yeah, I think that this seems fine. You are probably going to play out the Ancient of Lore for heal at some point anyways, and this is the most mana efficient way. Often you usually want to taunt before you heal, but just based on how the mana played out, I think it makes sense for Slimsh to go about it in this way instead.
Right.
Um, and the Argent Commander coming into hand, I was going to say something about that earlier. This is a card that you don't see it very often in the Combo Druid list. I don't think it was in the most standard lists, but it's a strong 6-drop and is very nice when you're running, double Savage Roar in your deck.
Right. Right.
And I believe here, Slimsh is actually set up lethal because he does have double Savage Roar in hand, but Mund doesn't have any options really to clear here unless he wants to use his Arcane Golem defensively, but I'm not sure you can ever do that and still have a winning line, so I imagine we'll see Mund just ignore these minions and try to go face.
Yeah, I agree. I think the lethal attempt will stick just because of that.
Yeah. And there we go. Double Savage Roar coming in. Slimsh gonna take game 3 and gonna go up 2-1.
So the question that we're posing here is, can the Freeze Mage beat either this aggro rogue or the Zoo?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess we'll just have to see. Like I said earlier, I think the mage probably favored against the zoo, but unfavored against the aggro rogue.
Mm-hmm.
So Mund will have 2 chances here. Could only have 1 chance, but has 2 options here as to which one he wants to queue against the mage first.
Yeah. We are going to see the rogue, so he's going with my feel-good way of seeing this.
Going with what I believe is the stronger matchup. So Slimsh just keeping the novice and the arcane intellect, keeping the draw makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a better start for Mund. This is the best start we've seen because this is the third time we've seen this rogue deck. He actually has a 1 drop into a 2 drop, and I think this is probably. I mean, maybe you might want Leper Gnome over Argent Squire, but still strong 1 drop, strong 2 drop. And this Fairy Dragon
Yeah.
is going to be very tricky for Slim's to remove.
Yeah, Slimch does not like seeing Fairy Dragon, and it's a card in two of the decks that we're seeing today. I don't think he's playing it in his do. No, but he is playing it in
I
his
would
other
imagine
decks.
not. Yeah, yeah, saw it in the Warrior as well, which Mund was able to get the win in with.
Yeah.
And now Mund picking up that Squire could go for Argent Squire and Cold Blood on the Argent Squire if he wants to.
That's quite a strong play this early. We know that, yeah, you can ping it off, but it's a lot of damage and starting to go really quick. The other option is just to hero power and play the Squire, which I don't hate.
Right. That's fine too. Yeah. If Mund had gone for the Cold Blood play, he also could have traded with a Fairy Dragon, and that meant that the Argent Squire that was buffed would not die to just a ping. But going for this instead makes sense too.
Yeah.
You can always go for the Cold Blood next turn.
Mhm.
And yeah, I would imagine here you do want to kill this Novice just to preserve both of the Divine Shields on your Argent Squires, especially because you likely want to Cold Blood one of them next turn.
Yeah, I would say that's true. We could see just an Arcane Intellect here and hoping to hit a Nova or something soon.
Yeah, this is tricky. Slemsh, yeah, if he goes for that Arcane Intellect, I think he's really going to have to bank on getting some freezes or maybe getting a Doomsayer. Because these boards with early aggression, this is kind of exactly what Freeze Mage doesn't want to see is a board that, a deck that is uh, has minion presence at the beginning and then also has a lot of burst damage to back that up.
Yeah. So basically every single deck in Standard right now.
that's that's true. That is a bit of a generalized statement, but especially here with how aggressive we're seeing Mun's start here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So Mund could go for a Cold Blood play here. He could go Sinister Strike Cold Blood and replenish the weapon, or South Sea Deckhand Cold Blood. I really want this Cold
Hmm.
Blood to go into one of the Squires.
I really do too. The thing with Cold Blood is as long as you have a minion that can attack on board, it'll always be 4 damage. So you want to look for situations where there's a chance that the minion could also stick, and sometimes it can be more. And this is one of those situations where these Argent Squires are difficult to deal with because of the Divine Shield. So I'm honestly really surprised to not see the Cold Blood used here.
Yeah? Yeah, I'm surprised as well. There's a Nova in hand, so we could see Nova Doom soon. We could see Ice Barrier, Loot Hoarder. A lot of plays here for Slimch.
Yeah, I think the thing here is Slimch has got to think if he wants to use his coin or not, because he has all these 3 mana cards, and he's just gonna choose to say no. I want to save that coin. Maybe that comes into play with a, Blizzard coin Doomsayer or a coin Alexstrasza down the line, and is just gonna play 2 minions to contest the board instead.
Sure, sure. That does contest the board. Um, and we can see an Ice Barrier in hand could be really good into this. Just gaining armor.
Yeah,
Your opponent is
this is.
not going to kill you.
Oh yeah, this is really where I think that not using the cold blood earlier is it's making it easier for Slims to play. He's not forced to use say 2 mana to ping here to kill off an Argent Squire. Instead, he can just play Novice Engineer because these 1/1s are not presenting much of a threat. A 5/1 would present something that he absolutely has to deal with.
I agree. He could pop an ice block if this was an ice block. I believe he could go crazy in damage, but I don't think there's enough damage here to kill a 22 health mage.
No, but I think yeah, he would have, I believe, it exact, or actually no, more than that because of the shadow step. If it were just an ice block, but playing the barrier instead with freeze mage, unless you are in direct danger of losing the game next turn, you generally do want to play ice barrier before ice block, because if you play ice block, you get all the way down to maybe only 1 or 2 health. Your opponent can just use over the top damage, cards like Sinister Strike and Eviscerate, and the ice barrier at that point will not matter.
Right. But Mund is really close to winning this match. And just in hand, he can
Yeah.
go quite easily, dealing 11 damage, or actually 14 if you count the Blade Flurry. So he has lethal, unless Limch heals, which we can see he does. I
Yep.
th- I think honestly, Mund is paying really expensive for not wanting to play um, that Cold Blood on the Argent
Cold
Squire.
blood. Yeah.
Just
No,
make it a
yeah,
better
I
Crusader.
agree. Exactly. And Mud now, I don't. So this is a lot of damage in hand, but I don't think this will be quite enough to pop the block. Even if you were to, let's say, Shadow Step the Arcane Golem, I don't think it's enough, but
I
I could
don't
be
think
wrong.
it is. I would need to do the math, and I'm lazy. So
No, I think he's got. Yeah, he would have 11 more, but would not be enough here. So Munt has finally used the Cold Blood.
yeah,
At this point, Slimsh has some options on how to deal with it. That Frostbolt is a huge pickup.
I mean, he can Nova Coin Doomsayer if that's what. That is just a play. Could also Frostbolt the
Yeah,
face and go Frostbolt the face and um, Frost Nova.
yeah. I think it feels bad here to use the coin though when you have Alex Straza in hand, because if he goes Nova Doom and then his block gets popped, he has no way to heal.
Well, we know there's an
Um,
Arcane Golem, which would actually mean a way to heal.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, if Mund were to respond with the Arcane Golem. With that said, I think the Nova Doom is probably correct. Just because otherwise you have no good way to deal with the board.
Right.
Now this, yeah, no. So I think yeah, Mund now might be able to pop, but he is
Can
gonna
he loses his
he'd give his
board?
opponent the Alex on a full board if he does that.
He is going for that Doomsayer. Interesting.
Oh.
Would that still give him enough mana to? I don't actually know.
Isn't enough to pop the block by itself. But it does keep his board alive for one more turn. So I think this makes sense. I think if Mund had just gone all in on popping the block, he just always loses to Alex. But maybe actually he loses to Alex anyways.
Yeah. Um.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is just Alex face, and I had forgotten that Alex could go face.
Yeah, this is it. Just Mund unable to pop the block. If you can get that offensive Alex going with a block up, so many decks have no access to healing at all.
Yeah.
And Buns is one of them. It's just gonna be exact lethal with Fireball, Fireball, Frostbolt.
Yeah, one of the most classic Hearthstone combos to deal damage, I think.
It really is. Mund is gonna be able to. Well, actually, is he gonna be able to deal with Alexstrasza and pop the block? He is going to.
Yeah.
He can do both of those things. So in his mind, he can be alive next turn, but we know that Slimsh has the lethal damage.
Yeah. It would be honestly, with this iteration where they even play Ice Lance, it's a lot easier for the Freeze Mage to have lethal damage.
It is. Yeah, Ice Lance is just huge.
Yeah.
And yeah, Mund here popping the block, putting his opponent to 2, but gonna get the bad news.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to say the question that I know I shouldn't, but does Slimch see the lethal?
Does he see the lethal? I think he does.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a match. Very well
Yeah,
played
that
by
was
Slimch.
crazy. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, very well done. And what I think honestly might have been a slightly unfavored lineup for him
oh,
with
I
all
was
the
afraid.
aggro, but
I thought he was
yeah.
unfavored. I do think in this match, and here in Schoolstone, our goal was to help players learn. I think Mund could have gone for that cold blood earlier.
Yeah.
And I really think that he paid a lot for that.
I agree. I think that yeah, that's a point that could have swung the game. Also, just I'm not sure if he could have avoided this specifically, but just playing the arcane golem, giving his opponent the 1 extra mana to play Alex. I'm not sure at that point if that play could have been avoided, but that's unfortunate to just let your opponent set up lethal.
Right. We are bringing Slimch for an interview really soon. He's getting his better headset. So,
Oh, very important.
yes. We'll
Yeah.
get to interview Slimch a few years after almost every match. We're interviewing Slimch afterwards.
Yeah. No, yeah, some really good games there, and we did see here though, just like Slim's bringing the classic. I mean, all of his decks known entities for being tier 1 decks, whereas Mund may have been kind of going for maybe a 2.0, trying to counter his appointments, an N+1 type of deal, going for
Yeah,
those kind of aggressive decks. The aggro warrior, aggro rogue, not seen quite as much, and I think he came very close, but didn't quite have the damage to get there in the end.
right. And I am adding Slimch to the call as we speak. So, congratulations, Slimch, on winning in THL again.
Thank you.
This was quite a match.
Yeah, it was. It's pretty fun to play classic. I was playing back at this time, although I didn't play some of these decks in their true OG form. Like
Hmm.
Freeze Mage, for example, never touched that until Mad Scientist rolled around and it became a lot easier.
Oh, scientist. Yeah, I didn't touch Freeze Mage until Unguro when Arcanologist was a thing. Even so,
Oh wow.
yeah, more that. But I mean, it plays pretty much the same way. A ton of fun to play, especially with cards like Iceland. So I think there's a lot more burst potential. And as we saw, yeah, overall just a very very strong deck.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I wasn't really sure how cohesive the lineup was. I just wanted to bring classic decks that seemed fun to play.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, honestly, with having no established like meta for conquest, it makes sense to just bring the top decks. But I mean, I think everything you brought, right? Like these are all known entities for being tier 1, tier 2 Hearthstone decks. So makes a lot of sense why you would just go with that.
I think so. Yeah, I was about to kick myself in that rogue mirror when I could have shadow stepped my Farseer another time because
Oh yeah,
I looked at
Hmm.
the mana. I was like, oh, 8 mana. I would be totally dead to Leroy Double Shadow Step, wouldn't I? That would suck, but didn't
that was
happen. So
close.
Yeah, that
probably
was.
should have done that. Probably. I mean, the Earthen was just sitting there on the board for a lot of turns. I could have just Shadow Stepped it to be safe, but you have to win the game also, so it's weird.
Yeah, we were actually talking about that one. I think, at least my thought was to go for the conceal one turn earlier. You could prep conceal because it didn't seem like you had anything you wanted to prep in your hand.
Right.
Just to
Yeah, yeah, I
secure an
must not have
adjective.
counted to see if there was a lethal setup.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was lethal or if it was lethal depending on draw. I would need to go back and check that up.
I think it was the turn 7, and if you had gone prep conceal, you would have needed to draw. I think you would have needed to draw cold blood, and you ended up drawing exactly cold blood. Um, but it was like a potential lethal setup. But either way, and there was a lot of it's really difficult in those situations to think, do I save this shadow step so I can definitely kill my opponent with Leroy, or is this 3 heal, is this breakpoint gonna matter?
There's a lot of stuff, and
So
like
yeah.
earlier in the game, I could have gone ahead and I could have concealed Gadget Sand, but my thought was I had enough cycle in the hand, and that
Hmm.
if they're dealing with Gadget Sand, at least damage wise, then it's like you're healing. So hee hee.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, there were 2 saps in the hand from Un, but I do not think they wanted to sap Gadgetson, so forced him to use the Abyss instead, which went a long way in that matchup. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Weird, weird to have a 2 sap hand. 2 saps. Yeah, I guess the aggro version has to run them, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um Slimshy, I do have one question about your druid. Uh, I don't remember Argent Commander being played that often. I saw it maybe as a one of, but what were you thinking there, putting the both commanders in the druid deck?
honestly, I never played Druid either, and
Oh, really?
I saw some randoms on ladder playing Argent Command. I was like, oh, that makes sense
Okay.
because I don't know. You ramp up, he smacks him. He's kind of a sticky guy. He threatens the Savage
Yeah.
Roar, which happened in that game.
Yeah.
So I don't. It's a I definitely like it more than Karen. Not
Mm.
sure what else goes around there.
Yeah.
I
I
can
mean,
see that. No, it would be Karen. Some people are playing like Sylvanas or
Yeah,
Rag, but I think it worked out for you really well. So I might think about throwing that in my deck as well.
yeah, that was a funky game. I
yeah.
really just wanted. Obviously, we would all prefer to live in a wild growth world, but you just kind of work
True.
with what you've got with Druid, and I was just trying to establish some sort of curve and ramp out the Drake and just see what came next. And then I think I had Wrath or something at the time. I don't know. Just wanted to cycle and
Hmm.
find out something. I don't know. It seems so weird. A lot of these decks, you have to get kind of creative. Sometimes it's weird the way games play out, especially when you're getting smorked down.
Hmm.
Like in the freeze mage game, I was thinking about the coin because I was like, I could coin out Alexstrasza, but if my block gets popped, there's probably a board, and I'll just get killed again anyway. And
Hmm.
if I coin out Alexstrasza offensively, and well, yeah, I don't know. So it was really nice in that last game to get ramped by the Arcane Golem,
That
basically,
was
because
Yeah.
it set me up for the. I mean, there was nothing they could do to play around that. So
No, I was only thinking of Alex for heal because we were talking about it, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh wait, you can just go aggressive and win, right? Yeah, that works.
yeah,
That's probably the better play.
that was yeah, no, we were thinking about like, well, if his block gets popped this turn, then he won't be able to Alex, but then Arcane Golem came down and you just kind of like snap when Alex face and it's like, oh, yes, this just
I
wins the
took a
game.
quick I took a quick double check at the deck list to see if there's anything that would prevent that, but like
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
there's not cards like that in Classic, so
Not yet.
No. No, that's something we talked about in the other match. I think it's just flare. So if you're not against a hunter, there's zero counterplay.
Yeah.
and they're not healing. So
Um.
yeah, it was interesting. I didn't even I forgot how Battlefy worked and all that. I didn't even check in to the match until like a half hour beforehand, so I didn't even see what the decks were. I figured Hunter would be the best ban just because like yeah, they're all face decks, but I can at least eliminate the one that has the hero power that's going to go
Yeah.
over taunts and just be consistent in general.
Right.
Even
No,
though Zoo's
definitely
pretty
the most
consistent.
consistent. Zoo was good. I think your lineup, yeah, I mean, at least Freeze Mage is good against Zoo, but yeah, Face Hunter, just in terms of direct face damage, it's still the premier deck for that.
Yeah, that was fun. Classic's neat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really happy that I think the thing that makes me happiest is that I'll play Darkside. I'll say his name right. Because that'll
Oh,
be
nice.
fun.
Have you ever
Yeah.
played under Darkside as a captain?
Don't believe we did, no.
Oh, but I mean, that was back. What's Slim? I feel like maybe like season 5, season 6-ish, like when Dark was just getting into THL, and I know,
Yeah.
both you and Dark were pretty active in the voice chats back when Discord voice was a thing.
Times we used to play
Yeah.
HOTS together a lot, rip HOTS.
Oh yeah. Yep. Different times.
Yeah. I have a few questions for Slinch, but do you have any other questions you would like to ask Mark Shire?
I do not.
So, I have just two questions before we end here. First one, I want to ask you just what is your current favorite Classic deck, and if Classic progressed like with the expansions, what deck would you love to see? What do you really want to play again?
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I had no idea whether it was officially going to be progressing into and
Well,
stuff. That would be cool.
they
But
never
for the
said
first
it.
question, oh, that is happening?
They haven't said if it is happening or not yet,
Oh,
but
okay.
assuming it is.
Cool. Okay, well for the first one, it's really Miracle Rogue. I always liked I never even played with the 5 mana Gadget Sand, but
Mhm.
when Sharp Sword Oil came out, I played Oil Rogue quite a bit and liked that and did well with it. So I like Miracle Rogue. Conceal, yeah, they were right to move that one. That card is super problematic. It's crazy what you can do with it. Not only concealing Auctioneer, but concealing something you've stuck a Cold Blood on
Mhm.
in an environment where the AoE tools to deal with even a 3 health minion, it's like, yeah, that's gonna stick there.
Yeah.
There's
it,
just so much less removal. Yeah.
it's crazy. Oh wow, thinking of the expansions coming out, I think it'd be. I mean, Nax would be fun, of course. I think after that was TGT and then Blackrock Mountain.
No, that was GVG.
GVG, of course. Oh, that's hard to say. Like, at what pinpointed spot do you want
Oh,
it to be?
whatever
I
deck
mean,
you would love.
my favorite by far would be if it were to be in the very initial Whispers of the Old Gods setting,
Sure.
right when that expansion came out, and afterward before what followed, because then I could just jam Cthulhu Warrior, and that'd be fun.
Oh, Cthulhu Warrior was so good. Such a fun deck.
Uh,
That'd be. Oh wow, that would be really time consuming though. Maybe I'd have to think about that.
Yeah. um, and do you have any shout outs, anything you would like to say? Any final words? The floor is yours.
No shout outs except to my team. I'm glad I could get this one in there. I will hope to continue going on for full dust value. And I will hope. I think I'm going to do pretty badly in the battlegrounds tonight. I'm going to really try and do the best I can, but I don't get it. I've been queuing up. I've been getting rocked.
Uh,
And just shout outs to you guys for doing this format. I know Classic hasn't really found a home in any sort of series, but I saw that it was included in this, and I think that's really cool because it's just a lot of different stuff going on.
yeah. No, it's really nice, and I think even as like some you were saying about how like you never really played Freeze Mage in this iteration, like I've played, I kind of have some familiarity with maybe playing like Face Hunter from this era, but the other decks I'm only somewhat familiar with. It's still just really nice to get the chance to play some of these really old decks. And I think it's something that we'll definitely try to have some other tournaments around Classic. Maybe I'm not sure if at this point we have the interest for a full other series, but it's something that's definitely it's still fun to play occasionally, and there's still a lot of interest there. So glad it could be part of this tournament for sure.
Yeah. So I just want to make it clear for everyone hearing, if you would like to see Classic series, just spam Markshire's DMs.
Don't do that. That
Oh
would-
yeah, that sounds effective.
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
But
Okay.
that
Thanks
that
for the questions in the stream. That was fun.
yeah.
Not only because I won. Like honestly, I was gonna be pretty chill either way because yeah, it is what it is. Just playing classic for fun.
Oh yeah.
If I get smorked, I get smorked. Happens.
I mean, there's still time for many matches on stream. I want to thank you for being live here today. It was awesome to cast you. If you ever want to come back, just hit me up. For everyone watching, you can DM me if you would like any Octathlon or any series match to be on stream. Just DM me. Schoolstone takes afternoon matches at any level. If you would like to play at nighttime, you can DM Saku or DM Donde. We'll try our best to find a time that fits you. Everyone is welcome. First come, first serve. I believe that is it for us. I want to thank Slimch, Mund, Samter, and Geranium Battle one more time for playing tonight or today. I want to thank Markshire for casting with me. It's been amazing having you. I had a lot of fun.
Thanks, Lotus. Yeah, it was. I also had a great time. So thanks for inviting me to cast, and Slimsh, thank you for agreeing to let your match be streamed and for coming on for the interview.
Oh yeah, gotta get that content out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
All right, thanks guys. I'm gonna hop off. Thanks
Thanks,
for the
Slimsh.
stream.
Yeah. See you all later. Bye.
All right, bye everyone.